Hi, I'm starting out some new informative podcasts. Some of them will probably deal with some things that I like, interests, other stuff like that. But today I'm going to talk to you about epilepsy, something that affects me and millions of people all around the world. Right now, I'm focusing on directing on how to actually help people that have had an epileptic attack for the first time. This is also for people that are going to be helping out those people. So usually when a person gets an epileptic seizure, depending on what they have, there are different kinds like petit mal and grand mal seizures and absence seizures. They all have their own unique versions of this. The most common one, the most disruptive one, is usually the one that will have the person fall down, start shaking, and basically making a horrible noise that you may think is a scream, but is actually air escaping from their bodies because of the neurons misfiring in their brain. So they are not going through any emotional trauma per se, but if it's the first time, they will be after the seizure. Usually, depending on the person, young or old, they may soil and vomit. So what you want to do is you want to put the person on their sides, and if they soil themselves, well, try to clean up where they were, try to move them, and try to cover them. The thing about it is when a person first has a seizure, they can't really give you their consent on what would happen if they have a seizure. So that's going to be kind of difficult right there about cleaning up the soiled area. Usually what you would want to do for the first time that a person has a seizure is call an ambulance. If the person has already had seizures before and you know it, don't do it because it is extremely expensive to pay for an ambulance to get you to the hospital. Just get someone to help them, take them there if possible. If not, then they're pretty much going to have to get taken there by some other means. Anyways, let's get back to what's going to be happening. So, it is your first time dealing with a person with an epileptic seizure. The person has started shaking, and they have started making that weird howling sound, and their eyes have turned either white or closed. What you want to, like I said before, you do as I previously said, put them on the side to make sure that they don't choke on their vomit. Here's a couple of other tips you need to make sure that you understand. Do not put your finger or any other thing in their mouths. Let them bite into their tongue. They're not going to bite through it, and it would only hurt them if you put a stick in their mouth or something like that, because all you're doing to them is hurting their teeth or possibly choking them. If you put your finger in there, oh, God knows it's going to hurt like hell. So don't do that. Anyways, usually after that period, and make sure that you time their seizure, because if it's more than a couple of minutes, then that is serious. That is brain damage territory. So understand that very well. What you want to do is time that seizure. If it's for a couple of seconds and stuff like that, don't worry too much. They're gonna wake up groggy and a little bit disoriented once they do wake up. It may take an hour and a half for them to wake up. They're gonna have a headache and other stuff like that. So if you're an employer and you're listening to my advice here, I would recommend sending your employee home. Or at least, not home, sending them to the hospital first, obviously. Or if you have a doctor of some kind, sending them to that person first. Anyways, let's go on to, so you can understand the situation. Because after this, the person is going to be shocked. They may be waiting for the ambulance and other stuff like that. And you need to reassure them that this isn't the end of their life, the end of their career, the end of their sanity. It is important. These people are going to need a lot of support because, yes, epilepsy may be inherent if it continues going on, depending on what happens. But you have to make sure to tell them that there's many ways to control this. They can do it through pills, they can do it through machines, they can even do it through alternative means like cannabis oil, if they're open to that. So basically, try to be nice to them and try to make them understand that you're behind them and not to worry, because they can get help. Because at this point, there is a possibility that these people may develop depression, and later on, after this scenario happened, it is something that just happens. I know, because many people do. I know I'm one of those people. Luckily, you have to understand that many diseases are like spectrums, and so is depression. So that does not mean that the person wants to kill themselves, but they certainly are going to feel very down, sluggish, tired, and stuff like that. People need to recover from situations like this. So just understand those things. Anyways, once they're taken to the hospital, all of that will be out of your hands. But just remember that you'll be walking on eggshells and stuff like that. This is also kind of information for family members and other stuff like that. You just have to reassure them and help them try to tell them that you're going to help them get their lives back. You know they will. There are plenty of people that have gotten their lives back to a certain degree. I can tell you I'm one of them. So so tell them that, because it is the truth. Anyways, once you're done with that, you've done what you can, and that's good. They'll eventually understand how their situation works. So let's get to the nitty-gritty of what an epileptic feels when the onset of a seizure finally happens, once they understand. Usually an epileptic will get an aura. An aura, I'm not sure how to say that correctly. An aura is basically something that happens to the person right before the seizure may come on. For me, it usually is kind of annoying because I know it's coming. Sometimes I don't. Basically what it is it's this cold feeling and a tingle in my spine that lasts for a couple of seconds. Not a couple of minutes, to be precise. So I'm going, basically in my head going, kicking myself. Did I take my pills or something like that? Why is this happening now? But I don't blame myself. I realize that for the most part, I'm covered. And I know that I'm not in the situation that could be very dangerous, hopefully. I usually lay down and just let it go through. I set myself to the side. Most of these people will eventually educate their own bodies to do these things. That's important to know. So they'll already know everything at this point. They have the bodies sitting to the side. Once they have so if your employee, the person who had the seizure the first time, comes to you and says, "Boss, I think I may have a seizure," you tell them, okay. So you take them to a safe space and to have the seizure, and that's where they'll be, and see what you can do about it. Do not send these people home, because just imagine having a person with a seizure in the middle of the street. They may get hit by a car or something like that. It's better under your supervision. Don't just call an ambulance, because it's going to cost you and your company or you and your family lots of money. So don't do that. That is a huge mistake. Just remember to time every time that they have a seizure, because that's kind of important. Anyways, now if it's going to affect your company, go ahead and call that ambulance. It's on you. But this is different for family. Anyways, let me describe the other stuff that people go through. You eventually go into the blackout stage. For me, that's what it is. Not sure if any other epileptics have it differently, but basically a blackout stage is basically the part of your life that gets robbed. You may never get it back. It's something like, at least with dreams, you actually get to dream. In my blackout stages, there is nothingness. I consider it the void. I consider it a pseudo-death. This may be depressing, but I'm not depressed completely by this. I'm not, nothing's going to happen to me. That's good for me. I come back, I'm fully aware of where I'm at, and I'm happy about that. So I continue living my life because I know this won't screw me over. For the most part, in the past couple of years, I've only had like 3 seizures in intervals of 3 years each or 5 years each. So it doesn't happen if you get it really well under control. Like I said before, just time those seizures. If those seizures are really long, then you may be getting brain damage, and that's not good. Eventually, you may die, but that usually doesn't happen. So don't think of it negatively. Anyways, depending on who you are, like I said, you may soil yourself, and that's not cool. But life is life. Like I said, this requires a lot of support from other people. For the most part, luckily, I do not soil myself, and I do not vomit, so I'm good. But yes, this really affects children a lot too. So, if you're a mother or a father, just realize that you need to really support these kids because I would say that epilepsy and other diseases like this can really affect them very much. Anyways, I'm going to end that part of that, the personal permutations of actually having the epileptics. I think I said that wrong. Anyways, yeah. So I just made this basically because I wanted to educate people about the situations, specifically once they run into them, because, you never know when you'll run into it. And I think the public should be more educated about this. Anyways, thank you for listening. And I hope you got something out of this. Because I really do hope that more people actually do pay attention to epilepsy. I would really like to get out of this personal hell that I'm in some respects. But I'm fine. Anyways, take care. Keep an open mind. A grain of salt. And always look ahead, never behind. And if you like this, subscribe and like it.